All right, good day. Hope that you're doing good. So in this video, we're going to be doing a Gauteng Prelim question paper, the 2024 question paper, right? Starting off with the first question, question 1. They say, given that 2k is equals to brackets x minus 5 multiplied by x minus k, determine k if x is equals to 2. Where I see x, I'm going to substitute 2. So I have 2k is equals to 2 minus 5 multiplied by 2 minus k. Now simplifying everything here, I have 2k in this bracket. This is equals to minus 3 multiplied by 2 minus k. Now distributing this minus 3 into this brackets, 2k would be equals to negative 6 plus 3k. Right. Now from here, I'm going to take this 6 to the other side. I'm going to take this 2 to the other side. So as a result, 6 is equals to 3k minus 2k. Now, hence our value of k would be equals to positive 6. Now, where I see my value of k, I'm going to substitute 2. So I have 2k, so 2 multiplied by 2, it is equals to x minus 5, x minus 2, right? So this is 4, it's equals to x minus 5 multiplied by x minus 2, right? Now, from here, as you could see that this, it's a quadratic equation because I have two brackets which have x inside them, right? So I'm going to try and simplify these brackets here. So distributing the two brackets, I'm going to have x squared, so 4 is equals to x squared minus 2x minus 5x plus 10, right? So let me just try and simplify this further and equate everything to 0. So I'm going to equate everything to 0. So I have x squared minus 2x minus 5x. This is equals to minus 7x. Now 10 minus 4, this is positive 6. Now all this is equals to 0. From here, I need to factorize, right? So let me put my two brackets. So here I would need multiples of 6, whereby when I add or subtract them, they would give me negative 7, right? So negative 1, I'm going to use negative 1 and negative 6. Why? Because when I multiply these two, they're going to give me positive 6. When I add these two values, they're going to give me negative 7, right? So x minus 1, x minus 6. So as a result, my x is equals to 1 or x is equals to 6. Now, let us move on to the next question. Now, the second question, we need to solve for this quadratic equation. 2x squared plus 3x is equals to 8x. Correct to two decimal places. Now, every time whenever you have a question which says you must correct to two decimal places, it simply means that you would need to make use of your quadratic formula to factorize this. First, we would try to equate everything to 0. So we have 2x squared. We want to take the 8x to the other side so that it becomes a negative plus 3. Now, this is equals to 0. From there, I'm going to write down my quadratic formula. So writing down my quadratic formula, right? So let me just draw my line here. It's minus b plus minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? From there, I need to substitute my values here. So let me just draw a line here. So my value of b, let me start by putting the minus here. My value of b is negative 8 plus minus b squared. So it will be negative 8 squared minus 4. My value of a, it's 2. My value of c, it's 3 all over 2a, right? So the next step, you're just going to punch this into your calculator and you're going to get your two values of x, of which you need to round them to two decimal places, right? Let me just go about punching this into my calculator. Now, when I punch this into my calculator, my first value of x rounded off to two decimal places is going to be 3,58. My other value of x is going to be 0,42. And these are your final answers, right? Now, let us move to the next question. Now, for the next question, we need to try and also solve for x in this instance. Now, the first step that we're going to go about doing here is now the first step that we're going to apply here is that we're going to try and remove the square root here, right? And let me show you how can we go about doing that. So we're going to take the negative 10 to the other side, right? So this side, I would be left with square root 2 multiplied by x plus 10. And this is equals to x minus 12. Now taking the 10 to the other side is going to be positive 10. So this is positive 10. Now, from here, let me just simplify this. So here I have 2 multiplied by x plus 10. This is equals to x. So negative 12 plus 10, it will be minus 2. Now, from here, I need to get rid of the square root, and I'm going to do that by squaring both sides. Right. Now, as a result, when I square both sides, this squared is going to cancel out with the square root. This side, I'm going to be left with 2 multiplied by x plus 10. And then that side, let's try and distribute the two brackets. So we have x minus 2x minus 2. So as a result, this would be x squared minus 2x plus 4, which is x squared minus 4x plus 4, right? So this side, I have x squared minus 4x plus 4. Now, distributing these two into this bracket, I'm going to have 2x plus 20, and this would still be equals to x squared minus 4x plus 4. Now we need to try and simplify that further. So I'm going to take everything to the right-hand side and group like terms. So x squared, it will be alone, it doesn't have a like term. So we have minus 4x. Taking this 2x to the other side, it will be a negative. I'm going to put it here. And I have plus 4. Taking the 20 to the other side is going to also be a negative. And everything would be equated to 0. Now, x squared, this is the same as x squared, minus 6x. Now, minus 20 plus 4, this would be minus 16. And all this is equals to 0, right? Now, we're going to look for factors of 16 that we could use to factorize this equation, right? So basically, if I take minus 8 and positive 2, so multiplying these two, I would get negative 16. Adding these two values, I would get negative 6. So x minus 8, x plus 2 is equals to 0. So that my value of x could be equals to positive 8 or x is equals to negative 2, right? And this would be your final answer for this question. Now let us move on to the next question. The next question whereby we are given this expression here as 3 to the power x, x minus 5, this is less than 0. Now this is already simplified, right? There are only two things that we need to do here, right? So basically here, if I want you to look at something, let's start with analyzing. We're going to analyze these two terms. So we're going to analyze this separately as well as this. Now, anything that has a positive base, irrespective of what you put as your value of x, whether you put a positive or a negative value, right, you would always get a positive number, right? So irrespective of whatever value that you're going to substitute here, you would always get a positive number. So as a result, in conclusion, we could say 3x, it won't be less than 0, but as a result, it will be greater than 0, right? And I've just explained that here. Now, with regards to the second term, we can write it as x minus 5. This is still less than 0, right? Now, the only change that we needed to make is in terms of this 3x. Why? Because irrespective of whatever value that you substitute here, you're always going to get a positive value. Hence, we change the inequality sign here, all right? So now, but this, right, this would be our first answer. And for all values of x, they must be real numbers, right? Now, let us try and simplify this one. You're just simply going to take this 5 to the other side, right? And the inequality sign won't change because we're not multiplying by any negative. So as a result, x, it's less than positive 5. This would be our final answer here, all right? So these are your two answers. Now, moving on to the next question, which is solving equations simultaneously. Now, these are the two equations. I've just written them over here that we're given, right? Now, this one, there isn't really anything we can do to this equation. So I'll just refer to this as equation 1. But we can simplify this one, or we need to simplify this equation here, right? And how do we go about doing that? So the first step here, we need to try and find the highest common factor. Now, as you can see, you have 3, you have 9, you have 27. For all numbers, our highest common factor would be equals to 3, meaning that we need to try and reduce these bases to 3. And how would we go about doing that? So this is already 3, so it's fine. What I need to do here, so let me just write it here as this is fine, it's 3. Now this, in order to make it 3, right, I need to put 3 squared here because 3 squared is the same thing as 9. Now remember, you still have a y here. And to reduce the 27 to 3, this is the same as 3 to the power 3. Right? Now that you have reduced your bases to your highest common factor, the second step, we need to try and remove the z or the square root right over here. So let me just try and go about doing that. So basically this right? Remember, if you have something like this is the same as x. What's inside here is 1. What's outside here is an invisible 2. This is the same as x to the power 1 over 2, right? Now, let's try and apply the very same principles on this value here. So this would be the same as 3. Now, what's inside is my x. What's outside, it's my invisible 2. Now, this multiplied by 3, 2y is equals to 3 to the power 3, right? Now, because these bases are now the same, we can now drop them, right? So they can now cancel each other out. So now, after we have dropped the bases, you can now add your exponents. So what's left is x over 2 plus 2y, right? This is equals to 3, right? These are our exponents which are left, right? We are one step closer to simplifying this. So the next thing I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to get rid of this denominator, which is 2, right? And because it's dividing, I'm going to do the opposite of dividing, which is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by 2. And also what you do on the left, you must do on the right. And I'm also going to multiply this side by 2. So this would cancel out with that. But remember, this 2 is still distributed here. So you would distribute it into this fraction right over here. And as a result, this 2 would be cancelled out. And you're going to take this 2 also, you're going to multiply it with 2y. So as a result, this side, you're going to be left with x and added to 4y. And on the other side, you have 6. Right. Now, to simplify this, x is equals to 6 minus 4y. Now, this is my equation 2, right? So I have simplified the second equation. And now, on the first equation, where I see x, I'm going to substitute 6 minus 4y. Now, let me go about doing that. Remember, my second equation was x is equals to 6 minus 4y. Now, I'm going to sub equation 2 into equation 1, right? So, basically, this is what I'm going to do. So here I have my x. So where I see x on equation 1, I'm going to substitute 6 minus 4y. So 6 minus 4y plus 4y squared is equals to 6. All right. So now, as you could see, this is a quadratic equation. So I'm going to try and equate everything to 0 so that I could get my values of y. So I have 4y squared and also group like terms together. So there's no need to put it in brackets. So I can just remove the brackets because it's not multiplying to anything. So here I have minus 4y. I have positive 6. Now, this 6 coming over to the other side is going to be minus 6. So as a result, 4y squared, it is equals to minus 4y. All of this is equals to 0. Now, taking out 4y as a common factor here, because you see 4y is a common factor. Now, if I take out my common factor as 4y, what would be left here is y. On this term, I would be left with y. On this other term, I would be left with minus 1. And this is equals to 0, right? So this is the same as 4y is equals to 0 or y minus 1 is equals to 0, right? And here dividing everything by 4, your y would still be equals to 0, y is equals to 0, or your y is equals to positive 1, right? Now, I got my two values of y. Now I need to solve for my x values, right? So I'm going to make use of equation 2. This is my equation 2 that I'm going to use. X is equals to 6 minus 4y. And these are my values of y that I got. So I'm solving for my x. My y is 0 and 1. So now I'm trying to solve for my values of x. So first, if y is equals to 0, this is the first scenario, and the second scenario, it's if my value of y is equals to 1. Now starting off with if y is equals to 0, I need to solve for my x. So x is going to be 6 minus 4 multiplied by 0. So my x would be equals to 6 in this scenario. And now if my value of y is equals to 1, let me solve for x. So x is going to be 6 minus 4 multiplied by 1, which is positive 2. So my value of x here is going to be 2, right? And that will be all for this question. For the next question, we are given this solution here. Now, this solution we are given, right? Basically, this is the solution inside a quadratic equation, right? Now, remember your quadratic equation, it's x. So firstly, this is going to be helpful. Let me write this here, minus b plus minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, the question says that the values of p for which the equation would have two equal solutions and no real solutions. Now, every time whenever here, basically we're trying to determine the root of this equation. So to determine the root, we need to make use of our discriminant. Right? We need to make use of our discriminant. Now, what is the formula of our discriminant? Our discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Basically, that is what's inside the square root right over here. Now, our values would only have equal solutions. This is if your discriminant is equals to 0, right? And your values of p would have no real solution. This is if your discriminant is less than 0. So this is for the first question. This is for the second question. Now we're going to check this discriminant right over here, right? So our discriminant in this case, let me just change the color of my marker. Our discriminant, as you could see here, is 2p plus 5. Now for the first scenario, we want the values of p of which this equation will have two equal solutions. So we're going to equate this to 0. So as a result, we're going to solve for our value of p. So 2p, it is equals to negative 5. Dividing both sides by 2, your value of p is equals to negative 5 over 2. Now this is your first answer. Right. Now for the second scenario, we said our discriminant should be less than 0. So basically 2p plus 5, it should be less than 0. Every time whenever you have this kind of question, this is the step you need to go about doing, right? First, try to draw out your quadratic formula and then try to analyze the question that you are given the same way I've done here. Okay, so now let us solve for our value of p. So 2p, it is less than negative 5, right? As a result, p, it's less than negative 5 divided by 2, right? So the inequality sign won't change because we are not multiplying by any negative here. So as a result, this would be our final answer. All right, now that will be all for this question. Remember, if ever you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. Now on the next video, we're going to be proceeding with question 2, right, which as well as our question 3, which are both number pattern questions.